Airport security personnel of Reddit, what is the weirdest thing you have seen inside the passenger's luggage? My brother and his friend borrowed a lawn gnome from my mom's evil roommate. They both heard that guy say, "Is that a gnome?" as it went through the scanner. No one said anything though. A live spider. Passenger didn't know and wasn't large, but he opened his bag. It crawled out, and I screamed. Human ashes. Homemade dildos. The woman gave me her business card. A live cat. Antlers with rotting flesh still on them. My favorite was a magician's bag. Alerted for explosives. He kept pulling bits out of pockets and showing me bits of his act. I worked at an airport as a line tech. A former baggage screener, Preet told me of the time he opened a bag and found a human skull. The passenger was an MD and had all the appropriate paperwork to transport the skull. But it was still surreal. Edit. My first piece of bling. Thank you, kind stranger. My father travels a lot and was going through airport security one day in Europe when he noticed his bag was taking longer than usual to go through the X-ray. The security guys called over another guy, and then another. They're all looking at the bag, gesturing and pointing. A guy finally came over to my father and asked, "Are you a mountain climber? We can't figure out what is in your bag and climbing equipment is our best guess. You have some sort of metal hook in there." My father was absolutely not a mountain climber and happily opened his bag for them. He had bought a metal crane truck as a toy for my brother, and it looked strange on the machine. They all started cracking up and asked if they could use the photo of the bag as training. It must have been a slow night. Edit. Similar to what he brought back. My grandmother emigrated to Spain and we were helping her move her stuff to the new place. My grandmother was 92 at the time. About 1.60 centimeters and a very neat and civilized person. Security checked her bag. Checked it again. Called some more security guys and pointed. And then they asked if she had anything in her bag that was illegal. Grandmother said no. And they asked if they could search it. They couldn't find anything at first, so they asked her again if she had a knife or something like that in the bag. Granny thought for a while and then she suddenly remembered. Unzipped a hidden pocket and pulled out a 15cm switchblade that she forgot about it. Apparently she used to carry a knife when she went to the market with her friends and wanted to get a bit of food that she needed to carve up. Or she used it to shank itches. Who knows? I worked Things that stood out to me was a hookah pipe. It looked like an octopus. Then some lady put her dog through the machine. It looked like a turkey. Crack pipe. He pulled it out of his pocket right before going into the body scanner. Airport police came and got him. A bag full of dildos. Huge ones. The guy looked like a casual business traveler. About once a week a loaded gun. Did you know that there's a sports drink that comes in a bottle that's shaped exactly like an M2 grenade? I didn't. Until I was working an X-ray machine in a military airport and some ducker decided it would be a good idea to put a bottle in his checked bag. Edit. Someone linked to a site that sells these. I think this might have been what it was, but I can remember 100%. It was me. I found a taxidermy chicken on a trip and had to buy it. Then I had to get her home. Well, she wouldn't fit in my suitcase, so I had to carry her in my arms. It was a really busy travel day, and that chicken amused everyone. Absolutely every person in line suddenly wasn't grumpy anymore. All laughed, especially when she had to go through the X-ray. Passengers who were irritated at lines started smiling. I loved it. 10/10 would travel with a chicken again. In college many years ago I had a part-time job demonstrating a dollar counting machine. They were relatively new then. Once had to fly somewhere to give a demo and took my duffel bag full of $1 bills. The guy searching that bag called for his boss to come over. The boss was experienced enough to figure out that real drug dealers don't traffic in low value currency, and he kept me from being arrested. Not airport security personnel, but I was that passenger once. I had a whole dead carp in my backpack. I was visiting my grandparents in Czech Republic right before returning to spend Christmas with my parents in France. Carp is our traditional Christmas dinner in Czech Republic, but it's pretty hard to get in France, since French people don't eat them. So I figured that hey, I might as well buy one and take it with me. The lady who checked my bag was not impressed, but she let me go through with my carp. I guess there's no rules against taking an entire carp with you on a plane. Or I once was traveling for business and I just brought all my Game Boy Advance SP games. It was like 2 Ziploc gallon bags filled with games and 3 portable systems. I checked my luggage bag, so the only thing in my carry-on was tons of video games and systems. Tsar stopped and looked through it, then brought over some other people to laugh at the guy traveling with nothing but 200 video games. I once carried a small, stuffed toy llama in my carry-on. Tsar Agent number 1 turned to Tsar Agent number 2 and said, with delight, "Someone has a sheep in their bag." Can't wait to find the response from the Tsar who flagged me, pulled my solid amethyst dildo out of my carry-on and asked what it was. Edit. For anyone interested in purchasing one, Chakrabs is sold out. However, Etsy has some in stock for half price due to imperfections. I was the passenger. I was taking a pressure cooker and some spices to my sister that she left behind when moving out of state. In the interest of saving space in my luggage, I put the spices, the kind in glass jars with metal lids, inside the pressure cooker. I'd also found a pair of earbuds that belonged to her and chucked them in with the spices for an easy to hand off package. I was not surprised to find Tsar's note. I was a little put out that they confiscated my deodorant, which had been in a sealed plastic bag with other hygiene supplies that were completely separated from the pressure cooker. Flying out from spending time with my girlfriend in another state, I'm anxious and especially nervous while going through security, topped with being sad that I won't be seeing my girlfriend for another long period of time. I'm feeling a little weepy. My bag rolls through the scanner and I see the woman's face get all concerned, and she calls over another agent to look at the screen. I'm thinking like, oh good, what now? She asks me, do you have a milkshake mixer in your luggage? I'm just taking it all in for a minute before it dawns on me. I have no idea what a milkshake mixer looks like, but I know I don't have one. My Hitachi magic wand isn't there. At this point, I'm feeling overwhelmed by everything, and now I'm pretty embarrassed and there's more attention on me than I care for. So, I promptly burst into tears. Sobbing. It's a vibrator. I was traveling with a buddy from Canada to France. We were big into one card game that required pennies. So my friend, the character that he is, brought a glove full of around 1,000 pennies, and without thinking, tossed it in his carry-on. Every security stop we went through, he had to dump out his glove of pennies, and then put them all back into the glove. The first security check we went through, him and I were both staring at the screen, wondering what the hell was in his bag. The way it was placed, it looked like an awkward metal dinosaur. I recently flew to Wisconsin, and in security check on the way home I got pulled aside. I had to laugh a little when the agent pulled a slab of cheese, my travel alarm, and my charging cables from the same zippered pocket. Oops. I flew with an antique 12-inch cast iron skillet with a lid and 2 antique oil lamps with iron brackets, a mercury glass reflector in my carry-on. They were family heirlooms that I very carefully and skillfully wrapped in my sweaters and a long velvet skirt and lined everything with socks and bras. Yes, my packing skills are to be envied. I had to explain to the Tsar that I was not planning to use the skillet as a weapon and that the reflector was not the casing for a bomb, while my bras were laying all over the table. Me yelling be careful with that, it's super fragile probably didn't help with my not a bomb plea. Not Tsar, but joined a tour of cats a week after 9/11. You can imagine adding a new one-way ticket for every flight leg of the tour into a group if 60 plus raised a few flags. I got all my bags pulled over and searched in full view of everyone every time. At that time for big groups they did it before they got put on the belts. So we decided to start screwing with security. We put a gigantic red double dildo and lots of gay porn magazines. Yes, magazines. It was 2001. In my suitcase to watch their reaction. We started rotating it through different people's bags to see the different reactions, and didn't tell everyone which bag it was in. There's a lot of odd stuff found in checked baggage. Commercial fireworks, the mortars that shoot up in the sky and explode. Cops were involved. A skinned goat skull packed on top of clothing. It had obviously missed the plane. Sat for a day and that was a very bad day. Poorly sealed jars of rotting blended fish. Must be a delicacy somewhere. Undeclared firearms are fairly common. They don't necessarily pose a danger, but there's a right and wrong way to transport them. Bought a wiener dog corkscrew for my fiance at a gift shop the same day as my flight. Threw it in my backpack and totally forgot to put it in my checked luggage. Noticed security grabbing my bag off the belt. They pulled out the corkscrew and I gasped and said, "My wiener dog." I must have looked genuinely concerned about that corkscrew because toots our guys decided it didn't seem like much of a threat and let me keep it. Shout out to those Tsar guys for letting me bring my derpy gift home. Not really Tsar, but about 10 years ago I flew to Mississippi from Logan Airport, Boston. I didn't have luggage, so my ex's dad let me borrow his gym bag. I was only going for the weekend. When I arrived in Mississippi and got to my hotel room, I began to unpack my bag and to my surprise there was a giant ducking box cutter in the inner pocket of the duffel bag. I found it really concerning considering I flew out of the same airport as the terrorist of 911 and had a box cutter. You know what the terrorists supposedly used to gain control of the planes? Not so here. But a friend of mine flew from Seattle to Cali. When he got to CA he stuck his hand in his coat pocket and realized he had a box or two of loose .22 shells in there. He had put the coat through the x-ray and they never even noticed. I was flying domestic. As a late teen. With my sister and without my parents. My bag of stuff was inspected after the x-ray. And a bug, earwig, crawled out from the backpack and then under the desk out of sight. The agent said nothing. And I said nothing. When I was a kid I liked to game on my laptop. And I didn't have a desk, so took a flat plywood board and taped a mousepad to it. So I had a big old board I would use as a portable desk. Tsar always asked about it. It was mostly just like kid art. What is this? I'd tell them it was for gaming and they'd stare at it and go, ooh okay I get it, laughs and hands back. Happened every time, I swear. And I travel, a ton. My child once packed a Ziploc full of sand in her suitcase. Turns out on x-ray this looks like a bomb. Also turns out her sand was full of rotten seaweed and tiny little, dead, sea creatures. Opening that bag was like the bog of eternal stench. 3 airports we hauled that damn bag through, and then I made her throw it away. I live in West Africa. Whenever we, Americans, go on vacation or back home, we like to bring back food items you cannot get here. I'm sure someone got a kick out of the turkeys and hams people were bringing back for the holidays. Not Tsar, but years ago I worked as a baggage handler behind the check-in counter. A bunch of porn with the Mormon Bible on top of it. A bag full of 6 toys. A leaking bag box with a bear's head in it. At least, I think it was a bear's head. Maybe a deer. It was hunting season. I wanna know how Tsar and baggage handlers handle the bags of those leaving porn conventions. 2 small dogs. I was waiting in the line at security behind a lady with 2 bags. She puts both bags down on the conveyor belt and opens one up to grab something. One of the dogs decided this was its cue to make itself known and popped its head out the bag. The security line was halted and she was asked to open the bags, revealing not just the first dog but another one. I really have no idea what was going through her head. When I worked at a small regional airport pre-9/11 we just had Southwest Airlines come in and they were running a promotion, $39 from BWI Baltimore, Washington. Anyway, I got called over for a suspicious bag. I still remember it, a red and black check plaid with leather corners. Old school luggage. It had no ID tag, so we decided to open it to see if anything in it could be used to get an ID. Well, I put on some latex gloves and proceeded to open the bag. About 6 cockroaches ran out, and 2 up my arm. As I continued to open the bag I discovered a small electric hot plate, a beat up sauce pot and like 2 pounds of used coffee grounds sprinkled over everything. And about 50 more cockroaches. Wheel hobo starter kit. Pretty odd stuff. My brother is so. He once stopped a guy for having an entire bag full of dead fish. Not frozen. Not on ice. Just raw ass fish in a bag. He also saw a dildo in some lady's carry-on, but I doubt it's the strangest someone's encountered. Last, not a strange item but more of seriously situation. He stopped some lady from bringing a bottle of water past security. She told him, "Oh, that's not mine. It's my dog's water." He told her they sold dog water at the terminals. Not airport personnel, but my parents own a small agriculture business in Peru and travel there multiple times per year carrying different types of equipment in their luggage. One time they went and my sister went a week after them. My parents wanted her to carry around a chainsaw from Toronto to Peru. Apparently she got through fine in Toronto but obviously got some weird looks. But once she got to Peru they started interrogating her and wanted her to pay a huge fine to bring the chainsaw through. It was only when she started crying that they felt bad and just let her go. My aunt had a farm. She used ladanivis on the farm. Then they stopped selling them in the UK. I was working in Moscow so I used to bring out spare parts. I was stopped leaving Sheremetova several times with clutches and brake pads in my luggage. Not airport security, but flying from Tokyo to Atlanta I saw an US Army officer almost tackled because he had a car bar, large knife, on his hip. I suppose the Japanese security let him keep it because he was military. The US security were not happy about it though. This was pretty soon after 9/11 too. So tensions were pretty high. Edit. Clarify what a car bar is. Half of the suitcase contained ears of fresh corn and half frozen bratwurst. Family picnic in the south. Apparently. I like to bring about an ounce of weed back with me from California, so I'm sure someone has run into that before. They always leave the note saying TSA searches but nothing is ever missing. My friend traveled back with a dab rig one spring break and they put an extra TSA note inside of his weed wax and rig carrying bag inside of his suitcase which also had a TSA note. So I'm sure they have really seen it all. He's. Edit. Yikes, sometimes you exist in niche communities for so long you assume everyone knows what you're talking about. My fault. Luckily someone explained the confusing terms down below this original comment. I was a little stoned earlier, believe it or not, so I didn't think to explain some things a little clearer. Finally one of these I can contribute to. Dumbbells. 2 by 20 kilograms dumbbells. Couldn't be seen through on X-ray and was pulled for search. Was dumbfounded. He thought there was no problem with that above people's heads on a plane that bounces around. Obligatory 60 item 1. Best 1. New girl on X-ray machine has pulled bag off for handcuffs. Right. Lem just look at that image a moment before I open this bag. Up. Closer look shows faint outline of some long shapely objects with motors at the base of them. Ask the guy where he was going meet my fiance. Sir, please show me the handcuffs to prove they have safety catches and you're free to enjoy your weekend. The smirk on that guy's face. Eesh. Not airport personnel, but rather a passenger. I was 6. Coming home with my family from a vacay in Texas. I had a small pink impossible bag that was put through the X-ray twice for being suspicious. I had found a bunch of cool rocks while visiting relatives and wanted to take them home. I thought they were about to take my rocks away, but they told me to come grab my bag. Knowing me, I probably also cried because I was scared I was in trouble. I worked for TSA for 3 years. I think the weirdest thing I've ever seen was this crazy taxidermy Russian doll. Essentially, there were a series of taxidermied animals stuffed inside of each other. The smallest animal was an ordinary shrew, stuffed inside of a snake, stuffed inside a house cat, which was stuffed inside a beagle. The beagle was stuffed inside a goose, which was stuffed inside a thylacine, which was stuffed inside of a perfectly preserved Steller sea cow. I think the person was trying to somehow cover up the fact that the snake probably choked on the shrew, I guess. The Australian border security show is always amusing. Asians always trying to bring in food or traditional medicine in through luggage. Sir, do you have any food stuff or organic materials in here? No, nothing of the sort, just clothes like I've declared on the form. Open suitcase to reveal half dozen turtle eggs, a mummified spider monkey and a bag of beetle husks. No speak English. I'm a little late to the post, but here is my story from being that passenger. I was traveling to visit my now husband for the weekend and didn't want to check a bag, so I only had a carry-on. In my carry-on I had a big metal butt plug with a tail attached. You can imagine how that looked on the scanner. Everyone could see it on the X-ray too. There was a girl in front of me that got her boyfriend's attention and pointed at the screen and started laughing because she obviously knew what it was. Tsar pulled my bag to the side and asked whose it was. I walked up with my beet red face as the girl laughed even harder. The Tsar officer, who is an old Indian guy, then held up my butt plug by the tail and we had a conversation like this. Tsar, what is this? Me, quietly, a butt plug. Tsar looks confused and continues to inspect it and holds it by the plug and even smelled it. Tsar, what is it? Me, a sex toy. Tsar, a what? Me, a sex toy. Like it goes up my butt. The Tsar agent immediately got super embarrassed and put it back in my bag and covers it with some clothes before sending me on my way. While I am dying inside and the girl behind me can't contain herself. My mom once tried to surrender a self-defense pressure point keychain at security because she forgot to take it off. They took her aside and held her for an hour with questioning, almost making her miss her flight. For reference, she's a 60-year-old college professor who is also a black belt and could lay your ass down. I think I've told this story on here before. This 20 years old kid comes through acting weird. Gets to see me in the back. I go through his luggage. It's full of 20 plus stuffed animals. Of the same kind. 20 plus stuffed horses. Or whatever they were. Of different kinds. Stuff meant for 5-year-olds. He had a whole large luggage full of them. One on his keychain. And more in a small bag. His actual clothes were stuffed in the bottom of his backpack or something. I'm thinking they're all stuffed with drugs. Maybe they're used for work. Or something customs related. Nope. Weird. For just sleeps with them in his bed. US. Customs officer. Edit. Not a brony. Because it wasn't plush horses. Was more of a therapy thing, he said. I deal with some socially weird people. He takes the cake. I've told this story on Reddit before, but I was doing training in North Carolina. Went on a work trip. This guy who worked with me was in front of me on the bag scan. He went first and they flagged it and pulled him to the side. Asked if they could go through his bag. Well, they pull out a pocket pussy. My mouth drops. But they can't figure out what it was. 3 people are around it looking at it. And then they look at him. Ask him what it is. He doesn't say a ducking word. This of course leads me to bust out laughing. They call a supervisor over and he is looking at it. Finally they tell him he can either tell them what it is or they will keep it. He tells them to keep it, grabs his bag and walks off. I started laughing so hard I had to stomp my feet. We never discussed it again. This is a really hard question to answer, seeing as I work at one of the busiest airports in the US. Here's a list of my top 5. 1. A dead chicken. 2. A dead dog. 3. A bag full of liquor store porn. Porn that you'll only see sold at the liquor store. 4. A bag full of sex toys and lube. None of it in packaging or unopened. Like seriously, how much do you need? 5. A bag of moldy fruit. Stank up the whole checkpoint and the guy acted as if it were normal to allow fruit to ripen beyond consumability in your backpack. It was damn near wine, y'all. Obligatory not airport security, but my friend's dad is. He told me about a woman who tried to take a whole cooked chicken through the scanner in her hoodie pocket. She tried to play it off that she was pregnant, but was clocked on the x-ray as having a weird looking baby. She then tried to eat it as fast as possible, whilst it was covered in hoodie fluff. She could have taken it through as well if she'd just put it through with her luggage.